Okay, here we go. This is going to probably be very short since it's a fair bit later than I would normally do this anyways. And but I said that I would do this if it started this weekend, which does include today, even though it technically started yesterday, last night, literally 1 hour after I ended the stream. So we're gonna run through everything once it loads. Okay. And set that live. Can I, oops, like make sure just connection, monetization on. Okay. Yeah, we go. Okay, this takes us right back here. All right. So let's get our nemesis up and we'll run through this. Probably maybe do 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. But like I said, it's already way later than I would normally do stuff. So I'm going to call it after that. Oh, I was kind of planning on, like, I was in the mood to maybe do this if they started, like, really on the weekend. Like, if tomorrow night ended up being the first night of it, then I would be in the mood to do this, like, Sunday night. But no, 1 hour after I stopped streaming yesterday, or Thursday, June 12th, for those who are watching this many days in the future, it started the thing that we've been all waiting for. I've been talking about for a year and a half, ever since, again, Israel took out all those early warning radar stations and proxy group sites in Syria and northern Iraq back in early last year. That was kind of a dead giveaway right then and there. Like, you probably remember me saying back then that they were intending on doing something of this scale in the future, no matter what, as taking those out would only really be worthwhile if they were going to be using their F-15s and F-16s, which are the bulk of their 300 aircraft air force, as those are not invisible to radar, whereas if they had only planned on doing a few small things here and there with the F-35s, they wouldn't have needed to have taken that stuff out because the F-35s have proven themselves invisible anyways. So we all knew this was coming. And right after I ended that stream yesterday, talking about how it's probably going to be within the next few days, 1 hour after that, they started going. So we have been cycling through one set after another of waves of aircraft, doing about 200 strikes per night for at least these past 2 nights, the past 48 hours or so. This has been nonstop ongoing. Targets have been hit in in Tehran within Iran, in large cities like Isfahan and Arak as well, uh, up in Tabriz in the north, even some sites in the northeast have been hit, which would be deep penetration stuff, which would mean that they used F-35s, did mid-air refueling somewhere over probably northern Iraq, went in probably up to lower Caspian Sea area, launched a standoff munition, and then flew back around and probably did another mid-air refuel on their way back as well. So stuff has been hit all over the place, starting with on within the first few hours last night. Hits included basically the entirety of Iran's leadership, including the top, most immediate current generals and commanders of the regular military and the Revolutionary Guard, as Iran, like many autocratic states, has separate a separate military from the regular military called the Revolutionary Guard. It's usually always called something like a Revolutionary Guard. Like there was the SS. Iran has Revolutionary Guard. Uh, I'm forgetting his name. Saddam had a Revolutionary Guard. Uh, Putin has his personal Putin youth indoctrinated boys, the Rovsgardia or something. So there's always a side military that's it's portrayed publicly as being more elite, but it's really a psychological selection of those who are more like diehard loyal to the current regime are put in a separate extra special boy super military. So they do have two separate militaries in that sense, but the leadership of both was taken out, along with after many of these sites had been taken out, the air defense systems previously, Iran had moved other air defense units up to those sites along the border, but all those new ones were taken out as well, along with, random ones dotted around here and there. So a lot of those have been destroyed, as well as two of the known primary nuclear sites, including one down here, I believe, that is the uh, the primary site. They do have a secondary one, but was the primary site where the uranium would be converted in, or would actually be melted or smelted, since it's metal, after after having been enriched to the proper isotope concentration. Remember, it would still be coalescing back together as its oxide form. This was the site where it would actually be carefully melted or smelted down into actual pure metallic uranium, which you would then make either fuel rods or nuclear weapon detonation spheres out of. So that facility was destroyed. They do have another one that's over here somewhere, I think. For safety's sake, they do have the second backup one located like way over in the east of the country, but that one was destroyed. And uh, one up here, one of their enrichment sites where they have all the centrifuges and everything, is underground, but it's not the one that's really deep underground. It is like, it is a couple dozen meters, but it was hit with enough stuff to where the facility, the underground portions at least, basically it's guaranteed they've caved in on themselves. Because again, that's not the really deep one. That's only a few tens or a few dozen meters underground. There's one around like here or something that's like into or under an actual mountain. So that's the more problematic one. But the one up here, that one has likely caved in on itself, and all the stuff on the surface was destroyed in the airstrikes, which is the important, which are also important like components of it, because that's where the power generators and stuff were. Because running a bunch of centrifuges stacked next to each other, you're only seeing like three here in this really, really, really crude toddler drawing. In reality, you'd have like 10,000 of these. So to have all these spinning at once and to have the water constantly being heated, that takes a lot of power, a lot of electricity. So the power generators and the electrical infrastructure on the surface of that site, since it has to be on the surface because it's burning fuel and it has to be able to exhaust that fuel. And you also, if something were to happen to it and, the fuel, natural gas or diesel, what have you, were to say explode, you don't want that part inside anyways. Even if you could just magically teleport the exhaust away, you wouldn't want that underground in the actual facility, because if it exploded, then it would damage the internal portion of the facility. But so all that power stuff on the surface, that was also destroyed. And since again that was hit a lot, and that's the one that's closer to the surface, the actual centrifuge facility in that one has probably been caved in, and that was not The end of it, as A, it's still ongoing, but B, they also hit all kinds of other stuff. So they also hit random spots around where Iran had preemptively stationed a bunch of the ballistic missile launch systems. For those who have not been following things or been around on the channel for a while, for big ballistic missiles, they have this specialized, all kinds of special, expensive electronic equipment and computerized nonsense launch truck. You might have seen pictures of where you launch the thing like raises up from, it's put a fin on the end, and some flames coming out there as it gets ready to take off. You have the launch trucks that they have to launch from. They had preemptively driven a bunch of those into firing positions, and a lot of those were struck on the opening night last night. So that's why Iran's retaliation took a while. But other things like random air bases, where Iran has some of its other air defense systems that were not actually deployed anywhere in storage, were struck, and those were destroyed. And as well as what remains of Iran's actual quote unquote Air Force, which on paper they claim is in the hundreds, but in reality, most of us suspect is probably maybe around 80 functional combat jets, of which 2 dozen were taken out at one particular airbase, a mix of MiG 29s and old F 14 Tomcats. So that's like a quarter of what remains of their Air Force was also taken out in that strike as well. And a site down here somewhere, which was one of the tunnels dug into a side of a mountain where they store a lot of yet to be used missiles. That was hit with a lot of stuff, and it would have been considered good enough if it caved in, but it didn't just cave in. Eventually, on the second or third run that the IDF did on it, one of the they don't have the super deep bunker penetrators, but they do have penetrating munitions. One of the penetrating munitions they dropped on it did manage to set off a number of the actual ballistic warheads inside that storage tunnel. So then, like, the tunnel mouth, or where it used to be, sort of like blew open on the side of the mountain, and the missiles inside basically cooked off. So that particular arsenal in storage down there is out. And then early today, or roughly, it's been, I don't know, 18 hours since the first one at this point, Iran rushed out as many as it could and started firing ballistic missiles to Israel. And it went the same as the last two times, actually, where the penetration rate for getting through the air defense network ended up being between 5 and 10%. And they impacted pretty close to probably the targets they wanted, but Iran, and I've said this before, I've given Iran credit where credit is due. For like the Shahid drone, it's a really well made drone. And for their precision stuff, I will give them credit. They have better precision on their precision of munitions than Russia does. You know, Russia, the supposedly previously considered near peer adversary to the U.S., who has precision guided munitions that constantly seem to have a habit of missing by almost a kilometer. Iran is tending to miss. However, they're not missing by that far. A lot of the times they're only missing by like 100 meters, sometimes as little as like 30 or 40 meters, which is close enough to still heavily damage the intended target, which were a few anti ballistic missile air defense launchers or vehicles or sites in certain locations in Israel actually were taken out, by incoming ballistic missiles because the density of the wave was too big. And they did actually land close enough, even though they were off by like I said, 30 or 40 meters at the minimum and 100 meters on the average. That was still close enough for the concussion from the blast wave to be enough to actually cripple the air defense launchers. So Israel, whether it was Israel's, whether it was some of the extra ones that we've been passing off to them, or whether it was some of the ones that the U.S., are in Israel operating ourselves, like two or three of those were destroyed in the ballistic missile waves, and two apartment buildings collapsed. Miraculously, only one person was killed thus far. There are like 40. I think there's like 41 people critically hospitalized. This is why I don't do impromptu streams. And they did actually manage to land a hit relatively close to one of Israel's like military headquarters buildings. Granted, the military leadership were all underground in like deep bunkers by this point, but again, credit where credit is due. Iran actually has higher precision rating on their precision munitions than Russia does. We'll have to uh we'll have to see how China comes up when the China Taiwan stuff starts. But for now, Iran has only been launching stuff directly at Israel. There has they have not yet uh, done what they claimed they were going to do. They have not started launching stuff at the oil and gas infrastructure of the other Persian Gulf members, as they claimed that no matter who helps them or doesn't help them, if Israel attacks them, then Iran claimed they were going to launch missile waves at Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, and Oman, and try to target everybody's oil and gas fields. They have not done so. So wait another few rounds of this and see if they keep not doing so. That might have been a bluff. And also, if they did that, that would probably be the real thing that actually triggered the U.S. and literally everybody else to actually come down on them. Whereas if they do just keep solely targeting Israel in response, in reprisal for what only Israel is doing, then everybody else is going to keep just hanging back and letting the two of them just go at it themselves and see how it plays out. However, Israel, something that might tip Iran into actually trying to apply that threat, Israel has, they're down here actually. I don't know why I drew that first line towards the middle of Iran. Israel has announced that they are actually going to now start bombing Iran's oil and gas stuff. So that if Israel is not lying about that, and if they are about to start doing that, then depending on the extent of what they mean by that, that could be anywhere from 0 to as much as 1.5, 1.3 million barrels per day abruptly taken off the global market, as that's the amount that Iran exports. As remember, Iran consumes roughly 2 million barrels per day domestically itself, and effectively all of Iran's natural gas is consumed by Iran at this point. They used to export a little bit, but now, especially since they have to re-inject so much into their oil fields to actually keep the oil flow rate going, now Iran consumes all of it. And that's actually, uh, depending on how well invested in news of the region you might be, you probably would have heard over the last few years, that's actually been causing problems for Iraq because the few exports that Iran did for natural gas, most of those went to Iraq previously. And so Iraq's been having supply issues with that, which is why they started rushing over the last few years to stop just, let's draw some flares here, and then some smoke, to stop just flaring off their own natural gas, which is what they've done for decades, and instead have actually built gas capture infrastructure along with their alongside their oil infrastructure to actually capture and thus produce and use their natural gas instead of just flaring it. So that was the reason why they went through that whole rush project for that, is because they've been basically cut off by Iran because Iran produces the gas only to re-inject it right back down into the fields to keep them pressurized. So it would not be a loss on the gas market globally, but if Israel does target Iran's oil and gas infrastructure, then that could be a loss of anywhere from 0 to 1.3 or 1.4 million barrels per day, which apart from the knee-jerk panic reaction already would send the market into triple digits. That much of a supply loss, given the current supply-demand situation or the current balance globally, that would probably be a near-term permanence, by which I mean for at least the next, like year or so. That would be a near-term permanent, probably $15 or $20 per barrel boost for like the immediate future. But if Israel does actually go through with attacking the oil and gas infrastructure of Iran like they claimed a few hours ago that they're going to, then the market will knee-jerk up into triple digits anyways once that starts happening. The markets did knee-jerk once this started. It went like this. It got close to 80, and then it's come back down since then and settled out around like the mid 70s, like 74 or 75. Once the market saw that it was for the moment again, for the moment, just these two going back and forth at each other, seeing that Israel did not yet attack Iran's oil and gas infrastructure, and that Iran has not yet backed up that supposed threat to launch missiles at the oil and gas infrastructure of all the other Persian Gulf members. They have not yet done so. But again, if Israel does actually intend to hit Iran's oil and gas infrastructure, then that might be what makes Iran actually hit everyone else. We'll still see with that, though. But this is not a one-off. It's the IDF like command staff has said that yes, this is it in big quotation marks, and this is going to go on for, they said, at least 2 weeks, which means it's going to go on for however long they choose to carry it out for. So this is the actual everything go around. This is the crush and obliterate everything that can be targeted. This is that actual one. So it seems this is the war, not just a quick back and flaff, back and forth pimp slapping round. Uh, no, they will not do anything to the Strait of Hormuz. They might try to, but the moment they start like moving to try to do anything that looks like that, any and all U.S., UK, French, uh, Saudi, UAE, and Omani forces, and actually even Indian naval forces potentially as well, since they kind of lurk out there now too, would immediately just like annihilate them. We're not actually letting this flow get cut off. Remember what happened last time in the 80s when Iran actually like tried doing something. But that's the current arrangement. Waiting probably in the next few hours, Iran's gonna uh, most likely launch another uh, several hundred ballistic missile wave plus cruise missiles plus Shahed drones. The drones really don't get through though, so those kind of not worth sending as like a strike towards Israel. Only the ballistic missiles and some of the cruise missiles really get through. So the I would expect if they adapt properly strategically that they would dedicate the drones more towards being what targets oil and gas infrastructure if they actually back up that threat. Since they can program the drones to fly really low if need be, like only 30 feet above the ground, well below radar ceiling or radar floor. And since, a lot of space is just open, empty desert, is not there's plenty of routes you could get through where you could get stuff to the oil and gas infrastructure, and there wouldn't be like too many witnesses along the way to like record and post the incoming drone footage to TikTok before it gets there. But we'll see. That's going to be it for this one. Only here because I had to be, because I said I would do this if it did in fact start, and it did start. And then I realized, okay, I have to actually do what I said I'm going to do. That's probably where I'm going to call it off then, unless anything else comes up in the next in the next minute or so. I'll chug some water and wait. Ugh. I don't think there is anything else I would throw in other than oh yeah, random bit of oil and gas news. I guess I could throw in right up the for the last bit. UAE, some new oil and gas exploration drilling is actually no over here maps is now underway. And these oil and gas explored versus unexplored areas maps, those are in the Google Drive folder in the description under any video on the channel as well. In the last little bit of unexplored area, not the western part and its offshore cousin, but the middle part over in the east. The last bits, or of the two last bits, the one in the east has been like auctioned out and exploratory drilling is now taking place. So the UAE will soon be coming to the end of new stuff, of knowing the maximum of what it has. But based on what it already does have, how much has been produced up to this point, and what the current rates are, or rather what their intended plateau rates are, they will be one of the longest ones around in terms of their ability to hold at the numbers that they want to hold at. Whereas Iran, plateau wise, they were going to be the the nearest one in terms of actually sorry no Saudi Arabia is going down first, But then only a few years after them, Iran was going to hit the end of their plateau capability. And Qatar doesn't really count because they're more of a gas producer than they are an oil producer. But all right, did anybody have anything else? No. All right then. Thank you everybody who showed up, and I will see you around.